بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to our program, our real life and education program. Today it is very important to talk about one of the most talk of education programming. What do you mean about education programming? To whom this education programming? Why do we have to get involved all the people in education program? With the growth of this interest, people present their own culture of education programming, especially talking about family and schools. Of course, when we talk about schools, we talk about university as well. I'm very happy and pleased to thanks for my two guests who join us to this program, starting from Professor Rashid Moumini. You're welcome, and I know, and it is very important, this subject.
Complex and important.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And on my left, on my right, of course, Dr. Mohamed Belghait, welcome to the program, to that topic, which is very interesting as well for all of us.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be with both of you in this channel.
You're welcome.
Hopefully.
As I said, with the growth of the interest of this topic or this program, or the subject of education programming, people are presenting their own opinion about the schools, about the family, about the all what we are living today. For that, we are, we have to talk about the defining, or how to define and determine the education programming. Do we have any plan for that? Or to who we are talking? To who our destinations, our guidance of education programming? We know it is very complicated because the education programming is related to the specifications of societies, of our society, especially talking about our Muslim societies. Therefore, I just want to address my questions to Dr. Mohamed Belghait, starting from you. Yes. What do we mean about education programming?
In the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful, peace and blessings upon our beloved Prophet, his family and companions. Once again, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be with both of you. I'm very pleased, honored to be with Professor Mimouni and you, Brother Samir.
Welcome.
To talk about education and programming. And I think in the beginning we need to understand that planning and programming is one part of our life, one of our characteristics, should be one of our characteristics, since our reference, which is the Holy Quran and the Sunnah of the beloved Prophet, invite us in different ways to plan for our life and to program our life. Actually, Islam itself is a program. قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين. Islam has motivated us to have a methodology in our life, in different fields of our life, right? And life cannot be stable without planning. The Prophet Joseph has planned for Egypt for 15 years to help Egypt to overcome the crisis they were facing at the time. That means the Holy Quran and our Islamic values teach us how to, if we want to have a successful life, if we want to reach the levels of success in different fields of life, we have to plan and to have when we say planning and when we say programming, or when we say manhaj, having a method of life, we mean that we should have a very clear vision about our objectives. We have to have a clear view about the objectives we want to achieve, right, through education and through instruction, right, and through the process of learning and teaching and educating this generation. So if we have a clear vision, that clear vision is a guarantee of an effective system of education and a successful methodology of learning and success in preparing the future generation, right? For that, I think any educational programming should contain at least three main characteristics. The first one, the program should be holistic. Holistic means it touches all the sides of any human being. Any human being, the Almighty Allah has provided him with the intellectual side, the physical side, and the spiritual side. So if we want to educate any human being, we need to guarantee a balanced growth for his personality. If we don't provide a successful program, an effective program for his intellectual potential, and we do not provide a very deep program for his spiritual dimensions, and if we do not also take in consideration the civilizational dimensions in preparing any human being for the future, that means we do not have a clear objectives. What do we want actually from our children and our students and people we are responsible to educate and to prepare to overcome the future challenges, right? So because this holistic program and a deep change and a civilizational dimension in any system of education are the main characteristics to make sure that this program will achieve a successful generation, will achieve actually a very balanced growth for our people, our students, this new generation. We are willing actually to prepare to overcome the challenges of the future. So for that it needs many tools and means. Maybe later, after we listen to our professor, I will carry on with that.
Inshallah. Yes, of course. When we talk about when we define the programming or education programming, it is related to the steps to make the programs. Of course, the one who's making program has to take care of the future, take care of the societies, take care of the people. It is not same programming to the children and to the others in the same. Taken in the same line. But you have to take, as I said, in considerations the ages, for example. And when you do the program, you have to see, as I said before, to see the future. You have to get vision to do the program. In the same line, I want from you, Professor Mimouni, to define to us the education programming, if you can do it for us, please.
Well, okay, shukran. Educational, Professor Belghith mentioned elements. He said holistic, that there is no contradictory element between the different agencies who educate. Deep change, each generation is witnessing a lot of changes. Civilization dimension means the identity. We have to preserve our identity in its diversity. There's not only one dimension. The problem is that we have maybe the agencies who are giving education are outdated sometimes. Sometimes they are contradictory between them. For example, education at school, education in the family, education by the mass media, education by social media, and so forth. I will return to a sort of definition about education. We have to acknowledge that education starts since the inception of the civilization of mankind. The first man who came upon earth, he had to educate his children. Then the family is the first setting where people, what he's getting, what is education in the large sense? It is values, rules of conduct, maharat, skills, techniques, emotional values, ethical values, practical values, relationship, how to behave with others, on everything. Then at that time, the religion, for example, religion. Donc each society has got education through means of education or agencies. Now we say agencies of socialization. But religion, for example, is giving us models of education. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad, is the archetype of education at his level, be it at his values, conveying religious value, but by his conduct. He is al-qudwa, he is al-murabbi. إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق, for example, good values. And conduct in a family, his family, conduct with the others, honesty, retribution, equity, respect of others, and so forth. We say that on the same line that great thinkers in the Islamic civilization accorded or gave an importance to education. As a sociologist, we know that one of the parts of the great encyclopedia of Al-Muqaddimah, of the Prolegomena by Ibn Khaldun, speaks about ways of education. And at that time, he would counsel the educator not to be strict, to listen, to respect to the learner, the child. And it was not a developed society. And I would say a definition. Now, in the traditional society, education was quite limited. First, it starts from the family, and the transmission to the other settings was easy. That is, for example, if he is in craftsmanship, يعني صانع ولا حرفي, he would transmit صنعة within the practical values, not about the ethical. He will transfer it to his son, or to an apprenticeship, حرفي. Okay, if he is مزارع, in the rural area, it will be easy to transmit those skills. But now, child is being educated since childhood, from the kindergarten, school, until the university, just to get a job. It's a very complex process, and the parents cannot follow all these processes at that time. I would say, for example, definition of education. Alors, I started with Ibn Khaldun. Now I will say by the first sociologist we know in sociology is Durkheim. What is the social function of education? What he says, Émile Durkheim observed all the means by which society perpetuates and recreates the condition, or if it's very existence. The main goal is to recreate the condition of its existence. And at that time, then we have to plan for education. We have to think. And the thing is that since, for example, if we take Algeria, we were deprived from education. We had a traditional education based on religious, traditional education, but the colonization deprived us from our identity. At the independence, we had a lot of challenges. One of the challenges was to restore our identity. Our challenges to give skills to the large generation, the coming generations, to have jobs with high skills and things like that. And at that time, the change were we have we could face that. The budget of education in Algeria since independence is over than 25% of the budget, of the state's budget. It's very important. But maybe the challenges today are more difficult for
it is complicated, yeah.
More complicated. I would say one thing to complete is about United Nations through l'UNESCO, which is the United Nations for Science and Culture, agency for science of culture, is giving education and culture very important part. And this is, we have to tackle this issue, which is a good subject.
I think there are 4 or 5 questions we have to talk about, which is, for example, when we talk about why do we have to plan for the educations. I will go back during when we were kids. When we talk about educations, even in school, it was, if we make translations of educator, that time it's called al-mumarrin, and it was in primary school. Because why do we call it a mumarrin? Because he's got magic hands.
Training skills.
Yeah, to make his flexibility to the others. And after that we call them al-muallim, who is the one who gives us the ideas, the one who gives us the courses, the one who... After that it's called ustad, which is he has all that plan and he knows what he's doing. And even in school, the scholars, talk about this mumarrin muallim ustad, which is step by step. It's like when we talk about sociology and socializations, starting from a human being and after a social being, and after we've got these steps. Today we need to talk about why. This concerned the goals, our purpose to make that education program. Because doing education program is to face the complicated situations that we live today. We all know we've got the complex in our life, starting from which start from the impacts of a lot of tools like social media. When we talk about social media and educations, when we relate that social media to the educations and what happened to these tools and to our comportment or the comportment of our kids or our children or even our pupils or our student at university. Now, why do we have to plan for education programming right now, while we are living now today?
I think it depends, first of all, on the objective we set up. In any program, in any project, civilizational project especially, we need to have a very clear vision and to ask ourselves the most important question: what do we want actually from our children and our students and this new generation? What do we want them to be in the future? This answer, the success of our programs depends on the answer we have on this question, about this question, right? First of all, we need to set up a very clear vision actually about our objective. The main objective, which kind of citizen we want to prepare for our society. If, according to our values, according to our reference, the objective is to set up, to prepare, to educate a citizen who can lead people in the future, who can be a successful leader. the Islamic education, التربية الإسلامية, right, focuses on this objective. Islamic education doesn't focus to prepare the individual to survive.
Just to survive, yes.
Just to survive.
It is not.
As some Western maybe educators say. Our education, according to our values and our reference, is to prepare the citizen to be able to lead in the future, to be a successful, a competent leader.
By preserving the identities as
Yes.
Professor
He cannot
Moulik
lead
said.
if he doesn't have his identity, right? So this citizen should be a dynamic citizen, should be able to overcome challenges, right? Should grow with a balanced growth, not unbalanced growth, right? Should be a responsible citizen with a sense of responsibility. Maybe these are the 4 elements of a competent leader in the future.
To enable for the development, yes.
Yes. So any programming, either in the primary school or the lower secondary school or the secondary school,
Or the
maybe
university.
later on in the university, the subjects we teach to our students and our children should be compatible with these objectives we have set up, right? They should be compatible. They should live in harmony with that, right? And education is not easy as maybe some people think, right? That's why when we plan for education, we need to know that there should be coordination between the 3 fields of education: schools for our societies, mosques, and families. Right? There should be a coordination with parents. We cannot, we cannot send our children to their schools, right? And the parents maybe leave their hands and they say, we have sent our children to your institutions.
Yeah, we will have dismissed.
It is up to you to teach them whatever you want or however you want them to be prepared. No, there should be a coordination. Parents, schools, and mosques, and other maybe institutions like media now. Media are very important now, especially all the fields of all the tools of media we are using today.
I think even
very
when we talk about generations, it's not same. Same generations that our generations and
Yes.
this generation coming up.
All those should be involved in this programming and this planning. You cannot program, you cannot set up a subject for a child, right? A subject which is more difficult for him. It doesn't respect his age, his abilities, his intellectual abilities, the program which doesn't take his emotional feelings in his life. This is a child, right? Either in the primary school or in lower secondary or in the secondary school especially, right? We should also take in consideration that the subjects we should program should respect and should not forget three skills which are very important in our life. Academic programming, academic subjects, if you want, artistic subjects, and professional subjects. That means when the student is graduated from a secondary school, right, we need to prepare him at that age of 18, 19,
to the professional
20, to be able to carry on with the profession, with with the professional skills.
To be responsible himself.
Yes, that means he has developed professional skills already in the secondary school, right? Then when if he goes to the university, right, he will develop other skills, and he will maybe he will be able to decide which specialty he is going to master.
I think this is the complementarities which has to be between all the institutions that we're talking about. I will ask you the questions, I'm not asking questions, but because this is our field as sociologists. When we talk about the institution of socializations, which is family, a school, and the mosque, and maybe the others as a media, etc.
Maybe as a method we have to maybe distinguish between what we are calling the formal education agencies and informal education. Formal education is imparted by direct instruction, تعليم المباشر. And informal education comes about indirectly, maybe in the setting of the educational agencies or outside the setting. And this is important because maybe if we have to make the, as you said, for example, the complementarity, it is an aspiration, it's an ideal aspiration between those agencies you mentioned before, school, family, mosque, and the media. But the problem is that these are, there is not a comprehensive approach to it. For example, institutional education through school, lycée, secondary school, and university is following a certain schemes. Let's have to know that in Europe or in the West or in many countries, there are setting a commission, a high commission, which is giving the tendencies of society later on in the 20s years coming, so that they will orientate those programs, educational programs, starting from school, lycée or secondary school, and the university, right from. I remember, for example, 30 years ago, it was headed in France by the most important thinker, one of the most important thinkers in France, which was Pierre Bourdieu. Then, that's because we have to have guiding orientations. For example, the German education system is based on technology training, but the French is more academic. Then we have to, those trends are very important in order to, then what we have, the education system has to integrate system, values, history, traditions. This is one part. New skills, new sciences. Now there is a great drift towards science. Now technological science based on electrical or mechanical is not very important now. It is nanotechnology which is important, intelligence, artificial intelligence, biology, sorts of biology. Then we have to anticipate so that when we learn, when programs are elaborated 10 years ago, so that the output will be this. Because we have a problem, we have a lot of problems. Outputs, for example, the input and output, this is one of the crises we are reaching in Algeria or in, for example, the education system is producing, we have millions of children who are in the schools. 1,600,000 at the university. But the output, and particularly the relation between training and finding a job and education, the adequation is still lacking certain certain moves to be adequate. Then this is we have this. It's not a difficult. Every country has got the problems that they try to adapt it. On the schools, then
it has been it has something to do, I said, with professional. Yeah, when you do. Or when you get some people, some students at school, and when they finish their study, they have to find a job. This is what you meant. Yes.
It has to do with the performance of industry. Then this is a multi-sectoral approach that has to be lived. Alors, then schools has got problems. Then when we say that, we can say that between there is what we are calling the deperdition of pupils. يعني التسرب المدرسي la déperdition scolaire يعني which is important. Then we have to the performance of education has to be improved. There is a widening gap between the input and the output. Alors, at the level, what are the factors that made the tendency, the capacity of grasping knowledge of our parents who were under colonialism, and us, which is diminishing startlingly? What are those factors? We have to find out, to see what are the factors that are preventing the best performance of education.
If we go back to the references, which is the how to read that with our religion. If we start talking about education during the Prophet Nabi Sallallahu era, for example, when you read this hadith saying you have to teach them starting from 7, علموهم لسبعين. When we talk about the ages, it is very interesting. That hadith is very interesting and it's very important to make it as a reference for educations. And even European people in Europe, there's some schools, for example, some European, from Scandinavian countries, they are taking this into consideration, this age, and they say the child has to start from 7 to up. I mean, before 7, because his nature is to play games, and his nature is to what we call to desire, have a lot of desire. And starting from that, can we start talking about education in to refer it or related it to the age, please?
Yeah, maybe I got your message. First of all, we need to know that education, earlier it starts, it is better. It will be more effective, right? This is the first thing we learn from our reference and our values. Second thing, we should modernize our schools, especially in primary schools, to update the tools and the means we are using to teach children in this age, right? Now, if you compare with the most effective system of education in the world, either in some Western countries or in Japan, for example, right? In Malaysia, etc. You will discover that the ways and the tools and the means they are using, especially in the early ages, have been updated and with moderate ways and tools, right? But if we stay only with the traditional ways, even in teaching Al-Qur'an or in teaching our traditions and the hadiths of the Prophet, peace be upon him, even in those subjects, right? Today the world is using the iPad and laptops and so on, right? We have to develop these skills and to help the child to enjoy the classes. Now learning is with an enjoyable ways, right? The child, especially in primary and lower secondary, The child should enjoy and be very excited to go from his house to the school, not the opposite, right? He needs to really learn with an enjoyable ways and climate, the climate of learning provided in the classes. That means we need to update maybe some teachers, we need to update some tools, some means, even the tools we are using in the classes, right? Maybe the whiteboard, etc., the books we are using, the CDs, etc. Then a second thing, which is, I think, Professor Mimouni has highlighted about it, we need to be very clear about respecting our identity and our values in the subjects and the texts we are giving to our children, especially in this early age, right? That trying to falsify the truth and to inculcate or to implement secular concepts, I say, in some texts and some subjects, right? To educate or to falsify the truth since this early age should not be tolerated at all.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Right? I think my message should be got by our audience, right? The second thing now, I have discussed with some teachers, some lecturers, and some students, right? Now we need to in the programs we are providing in our schools and universities, right? If we are aiming to provide a quality system of learning, right? Al-Jawda, there should be we should combine a theoretical learning with a practical learning.
Yes.
That means if an engineer in architecture has been graduated or in IT or any this kind of specialties, right? He should learning by theory and learning by practice in the laboratory science, right?
Yeah, to make the balance between what he's got and what he's doing.
Providing laboratories and is something really necessary, right? Because if you graduate an engineer in mechanics or in electricity, for example, or especially those kind of skills, and he will tell you, yes, in theoretical formation, I'm good, I'm competent. But if you appoint me in a factory or in a workshop, I will not be able to even change a screw, right? And this is what is happening actually from some of our systems. That's why if we want to overcome the challenges of the future, we need to review all these kind of things. And it is not shame, as I always mention, it is not shame to review, to admit some weaknesses and to correct some weaknesses and to update some fields of knowledge and some subjects and to review maybe some weaknesses in our programs, especially from the beginning, the primary schools especially. It is intolerable, or it cannot be tolerated, right? To teach innocent people, innocent children, some falsifications of our history or our values or the seerah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And I know what I'm saying, right? We cannot tolerate such things happening with innocent children, I say.
I mean, we can modernize our education system, but not on the behalf of what we call on the back of our identity, especially talking about Muslim people. And I can say, for example, the private school today, when we talk about tools, we've got three components today. We've got education system, and we've got educators, and we've got the student or pupils or people, whatever you want to call them. These three has to be the balance between three of them. Means when we talk about education system, you have to make all the efforts to give an subject, an important and interesting subject, without forgetting your identities, for example. When we talk about the tools of reading and writing, and I mean the atmosphere of the school,
skills, yes.
Atmosphere of the schools, talking about private school and state school, if we can call them, we've got this difference between the good atmosphere, between the possibility of what we call the boards and, as you said, the tables. Does this make a difference between our schools, our educations, and the other educations? Professor Mimouni.
Well, I would say I would return to the word of in a comparative stage or optic. We have to mention about the word of socialization. Socialization, التنشئة الاجتماعية, la socialisation, is to bring values, skills, knowledge, culture, arts, and so on, many things, in a well-balanced way. The problem is that in all the world, actually, in all countries, there is what we are calling the crisis of agencies of socialization. It's a book by Dubé, a French sociologist, La crise des institutions, le titre est à peu près la crise des institutions of socialization. Alors, he's speaking that because it is more complex, it's more complex, and it is difficult for an agency to catch up the exigencies or the requirements of the time. For example, if we see, for example, in the mosque, imams, we made a special show about the imam. Mm-hmm. You know, he is always to have new, what we are calling a continuous formal training, in order to catch up. Yes. The capacity to convey the religious mission according to the requirements of today. The same thing with school, the same thing with the media. The media is something apart. Alors, let's say, for example, that at school, you mentioned, for example, private. We are the children of the public education. We didn't have private courses. Mm-hmm. Now, parents are conducted to make their children private education, private courses in different matters, in different units. And it is the educational department started by teaching extra courses to catch up the maybe the weaknesses of certain pupils. But now they are overcome. On private, they prevented private.
Why do the parents make that?
Why? Let's say, for example, as parents, they've got representation. They have got their goals, finalities. They see they are searching excellence in the output of the children, the outcome they want it. Then they consider that public school has got its limits, as it is. There are a lot of children. Educators are wounded, and they are completely overwhelmed by tasks and things. And sometimes it's not true. Huh? It's not true, because private, they are using certain skills, certain persons who are not. They have not the didactic, يعني القيم التعليمية, didactic capacities like this. And then the other thing is that the private schools are giving some things related with a tasliya, entertaining. They have got capacity. They are teaching languages, maybe French language, but normally now it is the English language which is more dominant in the world. And they are teaching, maybe they are orientating towards certain certain units which are related with job later, more related with foreign programmers than they are using, because they have got a Canva, matrix, but they are going a bit aside in order to catch up those children. But there are other problems, because in the private schools we can say that children are not very much motivating. They say, my parents has got money, although their parents are giving great sacrifice for this, they are not children, particularly adolescents, we may return to the problem of the adolescents, they are conflicting, competing models which are not evaluating the output, the educational output. There are more other things. This is another problem we have to discuss.
Okay, my last question is about the education program. What can we do to make our program or our education program effective, to be positive, to have efficiency?
I think the most important step
is easy to do it?
Is to make a brave, courageous decision. What do we want actually? How do we want our children, our students, to be in the future? This is the main, the most important decision.
Well, you didn't answer my questions. Is it easy or difficult to do it?
It's easy for sincere, honest people.
Yes.
Right? It is easy if we are clear on that. Which kind of people, of citizens, we want 20 years later from now? Which kind of people, which kind of generation we want?
We've got the equations. Yes.
We need to make our own decision. We want a westernized children, westernized generation in the future. People without values, without akhlaq, without deen, without religion. Or we want successful Muslims with knowledge, with science, with different fields of knowledge, right? Able to lead people in the world. So competent leaders. Do we want this really? If we want this, it is a time to review our educational systems and to correct weaknesses, to complete some gaps in education, to be courageous enough to say that this program is not effective enough to prepare a successful leaders in the future. We need to change. We need, depending on those objectives we have mentioned, all of us in this program especially.
You see, one of the conceptions which was very interested from Professor Mimouni when he was talking about identity.
Yes.
It is very important. When we talk about identity, it means we don't need to forget about identity. Even with a very performance, very high performance.
I think it is a civilizational crime to mislead innocent children, right? If innocent students and a new generation, we will be asked on the day of judgment, right? Yes. And it is a duty for anyone who is working in education. It is a duty, either parents or teachers or imams or mosques, to come together, to coordinate between each other, to help each other, to assist. Why? In the interest of our children, of our new generation, our students, right? To provide for them an effective learning system, educational system, and in that way we will be happy later on when we see our students they have succeeded in their life, inshallah.
Professor Mimouni, talking about the identity, value, norms, it doesn't mean talking about something which is not modernized. We can modernize our education, our system of
In the
education,
same time.
our education programming, and in the same time keeping
We
our
respect.
value.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I think before that we cannot make a program, fully fledged program like that from ideally. I think we have to take in consideration lot of variables. I would take variables about the child, the educated person today. He is facing new competing system of values.
Yes.
New competing system of values. We have to say that the urban life, through the media, to the social media, to the great social media, he is transmitting to him other values related with what is success. We made a session about success. What is success?
What do you mean about success?
For him, success doesn't go through school. It's a long time, short period of education. It doesn't rightly give access to success. Then the values he's getting in a peer group, يعني الأنداد, he has got a subculture. Subculture which is no access by the parents, because he's in the group in the media, social media, and is returning or evolving into a world of ideals which are mercantilism, money, reaching, dressing, moral values which are sometimes conflicting with our values. Then we need the subtleness. We need the articulation of our values according to certain methods to convey them. When we say, for example, values of morality, values of hard work, values of sciences, those values we can find them in Islam, in our society, but with new supports now in order to convey those values to the children.
Oh, thanks a lot, thanks to both
we
of you.
need to, if you want, if you don't mind, Prof, we need to adapt the modern sciences to be compatible with our values, not the opposite. We need to adapt the modern world to be compatible.
Okay,
with
It's a dual process. It's a dual
Thanks
process.
a lot for for both of you about this topic. It is a very interesting topic, of course, as you can see. Hopefully, we answer the questions of our audience and our all people in education, the people who got the parents who got their children and their kids in school about the education programming. It is very important, education programming, but the most important is to be all together to help our kids, our children, our pupils at school. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.